whilst Hamilton suggested the idea of reinforcing Y Beach, this wasn't really acted upon at all. So quiet was the situation that Colonel Matthews and his adjutant actually walked unaccompanied to within 500 metres of Krithia itself without encountering any of the enemy. The village at this stage looked deserted and was certainly in their grasp. Having received no further orders and not seizing that initiative, he decided to return back to the beachhead and retain it. Advances made by troops were then withdrawn, and the entrenchment began around the cliff top. But by now it was 1500, and it was too late to exploit the ground going forward, and also it was getting too late to dig into the ground that we already held. Within an hour of this occurrence, a Turkish force that consisted of the 1st Battalion of the 25th Regiment, alongside a field gun and also a machine gun team, were now engaging Matthews's force, and the attacks continued all throughout the night. All the time this was occurring, the Turkish forces were being increased in numbers, whilst casualties amongst Matthews' force meant that his numbers decreased. When by daylight the Turkish troops had withdrawn, there was an unfortunate incident when a Royal Naval salvo landed amongst Matthews' troops. This caused so many casualties that a request was made to evacuate the wounded, and this was initially agreed upon. On seeing the boats approaching to pick up these wounded men, most of those that were below cliff level took this as the sign of the general withdrawal, and thus the evacuation of Y Beach began before its commander, Colonel Matthews, who was still holding the beachhead, was even aware. When at 0700 on the 26th of April, the Turks did momentarily break into Matthews' inner line, it was only a spirited bayonet charge that restored the situation and routed the Turkish attackers back. By this time, however, panic had ensued down on the beach, and the majority of his force then re-embarked. The last man left Y Beach at 1100 on the 26th. The Turks, however, had also withdrawn by this stage, and seeing the British leave. So when Roger Keyes landed, along with a couple of troops just to search for any stragglers that had been left behind, he and these Marines wandered around for about an hour across the ground between Y Beach and Krithia without encountering a soul. I mean, for me, this is really perhaps one of the biggest what-ifs of the entire landings. It's certainly one that when we're on the Gallipoli battlefields today, still sparks quite a debate over a century on.